Hey guys, it's Kevin of the Murphy guys. I'm reviewing this is a movie that I'm not sure many of you have heard about, but I figured that I would in fact check it out, and that is a little movie called I Kill Giants. And what I Kill Giants essentially about is we center on the character of Barbara Thorson. She is this outcast this kid who's like an outcast, and she's very outspoken, and she's dealing with a lot of emotional trouble at both home and at school, and she frequently finds a way to kind of escape the harsh realities of her life by basically living this fantasy world where she is this giant killer, and through the help of her family and this new counselor that she's working with, she basically finds a way to finally conjure up her own demons and maybe finding a way to move on, and that's really all I'm going to say. So I Kill Giants in general, I knew nothing about this movie going into it. All I knew is that this was a film that was very similar to Where the Wild Things Are. It had Madison, Wolfe from The Conjuring 2. It had Zoe Saldana. And that's really it, and that a lot of people were praising it and saying all kinds of good things, so I figured I'd check it out, and again, I really didn't know anything else about it, and I'm happy to say that I'm really happy I went into it not knowing a lot, because I Kill Giants is a really great movie. I really enjoyed this film. I think it is a very well put together film about emotional, just the emotional grief and things like that a kid would go through, but I'm going to get into that right now, starting off with the cast. Now, there are definitely a lot of things I really do love about this movie, but the acting is definitely one of the strongest points for sure, especially from our main lead here, Madison Wolfe, who absolutely slays it in the role of Barbara Thorson. I mean, sure, Conjuring 2, she really did show, I think, her ability and her talent in that, but this film, basically the whole movie is kind of resting on her shoulders. It is definitely her film, and she really does do an incredible job. What I really love about Barbara is that this isn't someone who is, blindly unaware of what's going on around her. She is very well aware, and because of this, she has developed a certain standard and a certain way of acting that is a little bit different from the way other people would act. I mean, she is very introverted. She definitely is very eccentric, and that's something I really did love about her, but there definitely is something really endearing about Barbara as well. You can really see what she's going through. You can see why she's doing this. I mean, there are a lot of hard stuff that she's going through. She's bullied a lot, and she's got a lot of difficulties at home that I'm not going to spoil, but she really does an incredible job here. You feel bad for her, but you also really do love what she's doing. There's never really a point where you're like, oh, no, you should not be doing this, and, you really do want her to, overcome all this stuff, and I really did love her in this film. She definitely is a star for sure. I think we're definitely going to see her in more stuff after this, and I think she definitely carried this film. She was fantastic here. And then Sydney Wade as Sophia. I also really liked her. Of course, unlike Wolfe, I wasn't familiar with her prior to this film, but I really do want to see more of her because she was really great here. What I really love about Sophia is that it's not someone who, right off the bat is actually on board with what Barbara is saying. It's not like she is like a denier of what's going on, and I really did love their relationship throughout the film. You can tell that Sophia is like one of the only people that Barbara truly feels connected with, that she can actually share these secrets with, and I really loved it about their relationship. I thought it was honestly really sweet. I thought that they worked very well together, and even in moments where you can tell Sophia is just kind of blindly following Barbara, their relationship did feel like the most wholesome of the entire film, and I really did love it overall. I think they worked very well together, and definitely, like I said, I want to see way more stuff after this for sure. The rest of the cast, I think, also does a pretty admirable job. Imogen Poots, I thought, was really good as Barbara's sister. She's very concerned about her, and you can tell that she really does want the best for her, and has kind of become like this motherly figure, even though she's her sister. Again, if you watch the movie, you'll understand why, but she did a really great job. I was very impressed by her in this movie. Zoe Saldana, I loved in this movie. I think she did a really great job as Barbara's very patient therapist. This is someone who you can tell that she is kind of worried about Barbara throughout the film. She gets more and more worried as it goes on. But she is willing to listen to her, and even though Barbara is someone who really doesn't feel she needs the therapy and really doesn't want anything to do with her, Saldana stays very patient, and I really did love that. I thought the relationship was very well handled. I thought she definitely was really great here. And then finally, the girl who plays the main villain in this movie, her name is, let me find it right now. And then Rory Jackson, who plays the main villain in this movie, Taylor, I thought she was definitely really good. She definitely gives you, the typical, middle school, high school bully feel. We'll get to her character a little bit later, but I think she definitely was really good. Honestly, everyone did a really great job here. There really wasn't a bad performance to be found in this movie, and I think, honestly, everyone was very well handled. So now let's get to the directing and the writing, because let me just say right now, like I told you guys, I went into this movie not really knowing a lot, and I watched the trailer after I saw this movie, and I'm just going to tell you, don't watch it, because the tone of this movie is really different from what the trailer makes it out to be. The trailer makes it seem like it's like this Harry Potter type fantasy film, and that's really not what this is. This is, to its core, two things. It is a coming-of-age film, but it also is a very tragic family drama, and I think those two tones are very well handled here. Barbara does go through a lot in this movie. It's not like she changes that much as a character, but she does go through a pretty big arc here, and I thought that part was very well realized, but I also thought the family drama stuff, it didn't feel that heavy-handed. It felt like, it felt very natural. It felt like this was something that was going on in Barbara's life, and I thought the directing was really great there. There's also some nice moments of humor peppered throughout the film that I really did enjoy as well, and the fantasy elements, when they're there, they're also really great, and I thought it was definitely very well balanced in that regard, so I thought the directing was definitely really great, but the writing is really what impressed me. Because like I said, it's much less of a fantastical sort of film and more of a coming-of-age film. And without spoiling anything, while the Giants are a presence in this film, that's more to the side. What the movie is focusing more on is how Barbara uses this as sort of a crutch to escape her reality and, find a way to create something that's inherently more interesting and something that's more exciting to kind of distract herself from the very harsh, inevitable future, because there's a lot that's going on with her that, again, I don't want to get into, because the movie does a very good job at very slowly revealing this stuff to you. And in the beginning, it, feels like the family side, it's more to the side, and it makes sense because of the fact that Barbara, sure, she is part of her family, but she always kind of feels like an outsider, and you very much feel that as well. You're kind of just creeping in to her family life, and I thought they did a really good job with setting that up throughout the film. The core relationship of this movie is, of course, between Barbara and Sophia. The fact that Sophia is the first person who really, wants to talk to Barbara and someone who actually finds her interesting. And that's something I really loved about their whole relationship. The film does a very good job of saying the fact that Barbara's well aware that she's not really liked and that she's never really going to be. People are not just simply do not find her that interesting. They don't find her to be someone they want to be friends with. They're either creeped out by her, they're turned off, and she's well aware of that. And I really like that about Barbara. It's not like she is like struggling to make friends, because we've seen that narrative done a lot of times. With Barbara, it's much more that she's well aware that, no, she doesn't have a lot of friends, and that, no, people don't really like her, and she doesn't really try to prove anything. She is who she is, and I thought the character was very well written in that regard, but she's still not perfect. You can tell that she does feel that the whole Giants thing is kind of real, and, you don't know if she actually does believe it or not, but the movie's not really, is she crazy or not? It's just, is she getting too involved with this? When is she ever going to just face reality and understand the weight of, what she's actually going through? And I thought that was definitely very well presented, the way that is throughout the film. And the fantasy stuff I did actually find very interesting. I think they did a really good job with getting us invested in it, showing that for Barbara, she feels that this giant, getting rid of this giant is going to fix all of her problems, and I think the film was using that as a way, when we're younger, we think doing this one thing is just going to fix everything, and everything else is just going to go away, and that's not really the case. I mean, sure, what Barbara does, it does lessen some of the problems, but without spoiling anything, it doesn't change her situation, and that's something I definitely did really enjoy about the writing. I think it was very realistic in that way, and it is different from Where the Wild Things Are as well, because while Where the Wild Things Are, of course we did see his family life, this is much more focused on the reality than it is on the more adventurous elements, and that's something I really did enjoy overall. However, not everything is very well written, because most of these characters I did really enjoy. But remember, I said most, and that is because as good as I did think Rory Jackson was here, every time this Taylor character showed up, I could not stand her. And it's not just because, oh, she's a bully and she's annoying and why would she do this to Barbara? That I can totally get behind. What I can't get behind is the fact that this does not feel like a person. This just feels like someone who is in the film because she has to create some sort of conflict, and she's really annoying, and there just isn't really much given to her character. Why does she hate Barbara? Just because. Why does she find Barbara weird? Just because. And they really do take it pretty far in this film. And I'm not saying that that stuff doesn't happen. Again, I heard this, this is based on a comic. I heard it was very faithful to the comic. I'm not saying that, she shouldn't have been this aggressive, but I do think they could have given just a little bit more development to the Taylor character, who I personally just was not a huge fan of, and I think she was a pretty weak antagonist, because a lot of the stuff she does end up doing feels largely inconsequential, and it's not like she doesn't belong in this film, because she definitely does, but, especially in the second half of the film, something going on with Sophia, she definitely does play a pretty large role in that, but I just kind of struggled to figure out what was her real purpose here, besides this one thing that happened. Why do we really need to get so much focus on her? And every time she was here, I really could not stand her, and she did take me out of the film quite a lot, and, again, I really was not a fan of her. And here's the thing, it's not like you can't understand why these kids would bully her. I mean, she frequently carries this object that she thinks is like a Norse warhammer. In reality, it's like this tiny little pen, but like she sees it as much more than that. She's a very active imagination. She could see why these kids are going to go after her for that reason, because she's different, and, she doesn't have the same likes and dislikes that most of them do. It's just the Taylor character, I thought, took things way too far, and she just didn't feel like a real person here. It definitely did feel like they villainized her a lot, and I think they could have given us a little bit more of a look into her character, and they just really didn't, and I do think that was a missed opportunity there. However, everything else was so well handled that I am willing to get behind that. The cinematography here is really great, especially for a film that is on VOD. It's not in theaters or anything like that. It's very well handled. I really love the cinematography. It feels real. And when you're in this world that Barbara's a part of, you feel like it's real. Even though you know that this is clearly just in her head, you know that this is real. You know that this is actually what she's going through. You feel like this is what she's going through. You feel like she is this giant killer, and I really did love getting into the world. I thought it was very interesting overall, and I really did love it. The score as well is very well done. I really did love the score of this movie, and the editing. I will admit, in the second half, it does drag a little bit. There is a significant portion of this movie where it is a little slow. It's never boring, though. There is a part of this movie where it felt a bit lost as to where it was supposed to go, but I will say the way the film wraps up is nothing less than perfect. I think, honestly, the ending is one of the most, satisfying, it's very poignant, and it's extremely effective. Again, without getting into what Barbara's really going through, it's very effective. It was incredibly well handled, and I love that the film didn't try to shy away from what was actually coming her way. I mean, what happens in the film, it's always going to happen. you just hope it doesn't. You hope there's a way for her to avoid it, and when the inevitable reality does settle in, it does get quite saddening, and I think it was one of the most well-handled endings I've seen in, I've seen this year, honestly. I think it was very well done. Overall, guys, I really did love this movie. It's not a film I think everyone's going to love, especially if you watch the trailer. Please, don't watch the trailer before you watch this movie, because it is very different from what the trailer makes it out to be. It is much more of a coming-of-age story or a family drama, and I think it does work very well in that sense. It's got a fantastic performance from Madison, Wolfe, and Sydney Wade. I think, honestly, everyone did a really great job here. It does have, like I said, those few problems, but other than that, I pretty much loved I Kill Giants, and I am going to give I Kill Giants overall a B+. So over, guys, in my review of I Kill Giants, let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall, left your thoughts on it. Like I said, a lot of people haven't seen this movie, but I honestly would recommend it. If you like things like A Monster Calls or Where the Wild Things Are, definitely check this one out. It's different from those films for sure, but it does have very similar elements, and I would definitely recommend checking this one out. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.